So today I want to talk about how TSW has ruined my life. Let's get into it. So if you haven't watched my last video on the truth about topical steroids, then I invite you to click off of this video, go watch that video, and then come right back, because I go into an overview of what topical steroid is and touched on some of the symptoms as well, just to give or to bring some awareness about this condition. Now, topical steroid withdrawal is not something that everybody who uses topical steroids will go through. This condition only affects some persons who you have used the topical steroids for however long and suddenly stop using them. So it doesn't mean that if you currently use any form of topical steroid that you are likely to go into a withdrawal after you've decided to stop, if you decide to stop, because again, this condition does not affect everybody. Now, there's still research being done to try and figure out why some people get this condition and why some don't. Until we get that information, some of us will continue to draw the shorter end of the stick. Anyways, also, I wanted to make it clear based on my last video that topical steroids is one of those medications that doctors use a lot in their treatment plans, especially when it comes to skin conditions. So I'm not bashing the use of topical steroids. My aim is just to bring awareness to the fact that I believe we need, as patients, as people, to be more educated about the risk factors that steroids can have on the body when used for however long of a period of time. Just like any medication, topical steroids does have its risks, but I believe that if persons are properly informed and properly educated and properly prescribed the medication, that we have a better chance of less persons having this situation be brought upon them. When I say properly prescribed, I want to explain that a bit more, because when we are prescribed topical steroids, I don't believe that we are properly tapered off the medication. So tapering off the medication is something I learned after I had topical steroid withdrawal. When I went to the dermatologist, her response to me, based on what I was explaining to her that I was going through, was that I stopped the steroids suddenly and I didn't taper off. And so I had to ask her, what do you mean? And her response to me was that I should have lowered the dosage gradually instead of just abruptly stopping the steroids. Now, this was not something that I knew about, and I had been using steroids for almost 20 years, if not 20 years. And at no point during my dermatologist visit had I ever been tapered off the steroids, which, to be frank, if I'm going to be tapered off of a medication, it is the doctor's responsibility to taper me off of the medication. I can't taper myself off of a medication. So all I heard from these doctors that I was going to was that I shouldn't use the steroids very frequently, use it as an as needed basis, and to use just a little bit. that can mean anything to anybody, right? So my thought process around it, again, I'm not a doctor, I've never been to any medical school of any sort, but my thought process around it is that if this, and I say if very lightly, if this medication is so dangerous and has so many risk factors associated with it, then even in my initial use of it, the initial prescription of it, there should have been a tapering off protocol. And for every other visit that I had to the dermatologist, even if my symptoms, even if my eczema had spread or the symptoms got worse, or I needed a different type of steroids, I should have been tapered off those steroids. Because again, not being tapered off of something that is helping me will result in me using it for over 20 years. So I just wanted to make it clear that I'm not against topical steroids. They have their place in the treatment of medical conditions, but I think we need to be properly educated as patients about the use of it. Anyways, so I want to talk about how topical steroid withdrawal has ruined my life. Yeah. So one of the things about this condition is that it progresses to being worse before it starts getting better. So one day I just woke up and I realized that something was wrong with my skin, because I started having these weird bumps all over my body and they were very red. Weren't normal. They came in clusters. They were very itchy. And for everywhere on my body that they existed, they started to spread. And the more they spread, the itchier I became. I started feeling a burning sensation after I started itching. And then I noticed that as the weeks progressed, my symptoms got worse and I started to experience more and more symptoms. And I believe if I go ahead and look at the various symptoms that I experience as somebody who is going through topical steroid withdrawal, I could easily name 15 different symptoms. I mentioned some of them in my previous video. There are lots. I won't go through them in this video, but because of the progression of this condition, it brings you to a place of hopelessness. And so what that does is to play on your mental health, because you begin to feel and experience things about your body that you would have never experienced before. Itching is very uncomfortable. Any form of irritation to the skin is very uncomfortable, much less having that over your entire body, right? Your skin doesn't feel like yours anymore. You look in the mirror and you don't recognize yourself anymore. You begin to have even symptoms that's coming from internal, meaning that you start to have situations where you can't regulate your body temperature. It's cold but you're hot. It's hot but you're cold. Your hands become numb from the scratching and just all of these things. You begin to lose your hair, and so it becomes very difficult. One of the things that also happens is that you begin to feel very fatigued and tired. You begin to go into a space where you can't even go into the shower without being fearful because of the burning sensation that comes with just having a simple shower. I remember days when I would wake up, and when I woke up, because of how stiff my body felt, it felt like somebody had wrapped me up tightly throughout the night, and I could barely move when I get up. And when I eventually got around to getting up and moving, it was so painful that I started to cry, and then mentally have to get myself into the bath, because I knew that as if I got the water on me, even though it would have felt painful afterwards, I would feel a little better. So I forced myself to go into the bathroom to take a shower. And while showering, I would be crying because the water stings. I don't even know how to explain it, but it stings. And after bathing, because you rush in, you rush out because it's stinging, even though it's good because you're washing off all of the dead skin from the night before and all of that thing, but the pain of bathing. Yeah. So by the time you get out of the bathroom and you're trying to, dab off some of the water to kind of get some moisturizer back into your skin, putting on the moisturizer is also, it also stings, it also burns, and it then leads you to be scratching. So I'll be putting on the moisturizer and crying. Crying probably was the only thing that felt normal in this whole situation, because it helped to relieve some of the stress and the tension that I was going through. And to be honest with you, I am an emotional person, but this level of crying was a lot. I couldn't talk about what I was going through without wanting to cry. If somebody called me on the phone to ask me how I was, as soon as I got off the phone, I started to cry. Like it was horrible, because I found myself moving from having a normal life to now being in a space where all my attention is now on my skin, and I can't even do anything about it. So mentally, it's very hard mentally, because you lose your self-worth. There were days where I didn't want to wake up because I knew what I was going to go through for the day. And so when I realized, I woke up, I started crying. It is hard to say, but it was my reality for quite some time, where I remember when New Year's morning, December 31st, I went to bed. And when I woke up on New Year's morning, I woke up crying, because I knew that I was entering into a new year, and I was going into the new year with this thing following behind me. And it felt horrible, and I couldn't do anything about it. And then worse, because no one seems to understand what you're going through unless the person has walked in your shoe and has experienced this for themselves. They do not know what you're going through. And there are times when persons will want to say or tell me that I am probably going through something else. Maybe this is X, or maybe this is Y. Have you checked out X? Have you checked Y? And I know that all of that was out of love and concern, but it didn't help, because I knew what I was going through. And because it's something new, there is nothing that I could tell or explain to somebody to say, hey, this is what it is, right? I heard somebody at a YouTube say, well, a video I was watching recently, and this person who was talking about their TSW experience said it so perfectly. I wouldn't utter it out of my mouth, but she said it so perfectly. She said that there were days she wished she had, she wished her condition was cancer or some other disease that people knew of, because then one, she wouldn't have to be explaining herself to people, and two, doctors would have some solution to give her without making her feel as though what she was going through was something that she was making up. And she said it so perfectly, because that's exactly how I felt. I just wouldn't have uttered it out of my mouth regarding myself. But mentally, it's hard. You lose your self-confidence. You feel as though you are useless because you can hardly do anything. There were days that I was just lying in bed and I was questioning whether or not I was lazy for just lying in the bed. But as soon as I got up to do anything, I couldn't, right? I just couldn't. If I decided like, okay, there is dirty dishes in the sink and I wanted to try and help to see if I could wash them up, by the next day my hands were red and inflamed, and even in the water my hands were burning. So I couldn't help. If I tried, and it still happens even to today, I'll get up, I'll feel good, and I say, okay, I'll clean the house today, and by the next day I'm in bed for the entire day because I've aggravated my skin so much that by the next day I'm red, I'm burning, and I just have to stay still. So at some point you begin to wonder why you're even here, if it makes any sense, because you can't really see the end. You can't read, the end is not really in sight, and here is why. TSW is of such that because it gets worse before it gets better, and you don't know what's coming because you've never experienced this before, right? So you don't know what's coming. So you really have to just go through each day, literally day by day, and whatever comes, you take it and you work with it. Another thing is that when you get to that stage where you see some kind of light at the end of the tunnel, you'll be okay for a few days, and then something triggers, and it's hard to tell what triggers you. It can be the environment, it can be a scent, it can be dust, it can be what you eat, it can be the sun. You go out in the sun for too long. So many different things. A product you rub on your skin. So many different things can send you into what we call a flare. And so you'll feel like you're getting better. You're like, okay, all right, I feel good today. My skin don't look so bad today. Are you in your mind? You're thinking, okay, I'm progressing now towards healing. And then all of a sudden you wake up one morning and you're back to ground zero. And this happens very frequently throughout your healing process. When I first came into TSW, I did read somewhere where it says that our healing is not linear. It's not a straight line. It has its ups and its downs until you get to that point where you're fully healed. But on your way to healing, you'll take a couple steps forward and a couple steps back, and that's just how it is. So that also plays on you, because you'll get up with plans in your mind to say that you're going to do this or you're going to do that, and then your plans are shelved because you wake up the next day and you can't do any of the things that you had planned to do. So the best way to cope mentally is just to get as much rest as you can, to accept the fact that you're sick. It took me a while to accept the fact that I was sick. As much as I was going through all of these symptoms, it took me a while to acknowledge that I was not well. And I think coming into that knowledge, accepting the fact that I was not feeling good, was not well, is when I think a burden kind of lift off of me, and I was like, okay, I can lay in the bed and not do anything. because I am not well. And there were weeks when I was in the bed and the furthest I could go was to the bathroom and back to the bed. And again, it's just a matter of keeping myself as comfortable as I could. And that did help. And acknowledging the fact that it will get better, even though it's painful, it will get better. And I just have to have the patience to wait and to ride it out. And so, yeah, mentally, it is rough. It is a lot. When you get to the stage of topical steroid withdrawal where you are flaking, this was at the point where I recognized that as humans, it ain't no joke, we're dust. I'll explain with a picture right here. We are dust. And what started to happen was that my skin started to flake off. In the mornings when I would wake up, even before that, because I was experiencing insomnia, still experiencing insomnia right now. But so during the nights, I would wake up, and while I felt myself scratching, I would feel a bit of irritation in the bed. So I would get up, and when I got up, it was as if somebody took some sand and just threw it on my bed. So every night, especially around the hours of maybe 12 and I would say 3:30, I would have to get up, dust off my bed, sweep my room thoroughly before going back to lie down. In the morning, I would have to do the same thing. I'd have to get up. Well, once I got up, I'd have to do a sweep of the room. Once I did the sweep of the room, I would then proceed to dusting off my bed. After dusting off my bed, I had to sweep again before I could make my bed up. And then throughout the day, once I was sitting anywhere or lying down anywhere, I would have to dust. And that's what is happening to me now. So even now that I'm scratching on my pillow here that I'm using as a buffer for itching, once I scratch, it's full of dust, it's full of skin, it's full of me, right? So I have to be, so once I'm finished with this video, I have to sweep up where I'm sitting because there's skin all over the floor. Financially, TSW has ruined my life. It is a condition that proves to be very expensive at the end of the day, regardless of whether you are going the natural way of healing, or if you are going the medicated route of healing. It is important for us as sufferers of TSW to have a very clean diet. Your fruits, your vegetables, meats, legumes, nuts, seeds. It's important for us to have a well-rounded diet. And that's not a very easy thing to maintain. I don't think anywhere in the world, but specifically here in Jamaica, it's not a very easy diet to maintain. But I keep it simple as I can. really I'm supposed to be eating a lot of leafy green vegetables, but leafy green vegetables, if you're not growing them on your own, can be pretty expensive. But I do what I can. In addition to that, the products that I have to use to bathe and moisturize with are pretty expensive. Going to the doctor, to the dermatologist, is pretty expensive. My pillow buffer is not working, guys. It's not working. But I'm trying. Going to the dermatologist can be pretty expensive as well. Regarding both the doctor's visit, the fee for the doctor's visit, I mean, depending on how frequently you go to do your checkups, just to make sure. For me, it was just I visit dermatologist just to make sure I didn't have any infection. I didn't go very frequently. But for some persons, depending on how badly this thing is, you may have to go to a dermatologist or a doctor pretty frequently, just to ensure that you don't have any infection, or if you do have an infection, it's being treated properly. So that in itself is an expense. When I did go to the dermatologist, I got referred to do blood work, just again to see or to make sure that this wasn't something else. And the blood work was pretty expensive. Now, the reason it was a lot for me was mainly because I don't have health insurance, and so I had to pay the full fee. So just to give you an example, my last blood work cost me $50,000 because I was being checked for a myriad of different things, including liver function, just a whole lot of different things I was being tested for. So it can be pretty expensive. The biopsy I did to make sure that this wasn't cancer was also pretty expensive for me to do as well. Any treatment that you're gonna be doing regarding topical steroid withdrawal will cost a pretty penny. And on top of that, because I am in a place where I physically I'm not able to function as I normally would. So even though for me I don't have a 9 to 5, so I don't have to leave my house and go to a job. I work online. I have an online business. But even that in itself suffered because I had to reduce the number of clients that I work with. I do have a travel business, and I haven't been able to take any clients for that either. So my income has reduced significantly because of the TSW that I'm in. Yeah, it's been a lot. It's been a lot, and this is something that really and truly I honestly feel that it taps into all areas of your life. It disrupts all areas of your life. My self-confidence is shattered. I mean, it will come back. I think it's slowly coming back, especially doing these videos has helped tremendously. A couple weeks ago, I wouldn't have even thought about doing this because of feeling, looking the way that I felt and looked. But going out on the road, seeing persons who know you or, know what you look like or should look like, and then, having people stare at you. I remember an instance where a young lady, I believe she probably think I was bleaching, and she looked me up and down with the dirtiest look I've ever gotten in my entire life. I didn't say anything because I pretty much thought that because it was because of how I looked. But just being able to go out is something that I'm not interested in doing it right now, because I don't feel comfortable when I go out anymore. I walk with my head down because I don't want anybody to see what my face looks like. I've become very fearful of going outside, even if it is within my own yard space. I'm afraid to go outside, because as soon as I see any form of insect, I am back in the house. Like, I don't even want to see ants come near me. It's that bad. I try my best to get in a little bit of sun, not a lot, because the sun does help, which is why I take D3, but the sun does help a little bit, but I can't stay out there very long. I am very cautious about any environmental irritant, so smoke, fumes, that kind of thing. I don't want to go near it any at all. Going to the beach is something that definitely would help my skin, but even that I'm very self-conscious about, simply because, one, the ocean burns like hell, even though it's very, very good, but it really does burn. But then outside of that, I don't want my skin to be burnt up, so I have to be very careful. So for me, even going outside right now is not something that I am comfortable with, and because of that, I am locked indoors most days. So TSW has robbed me literally of, simply going on the road to get normal stuff done. That's a no-no for me right now. Thank God for my mother, because I don't know how I would manage without her, to be very honest with you. Because TSW affects your life, or impacts your life in so many different ways negatively, it is very important for you to have a support system. And I am so grateful for the support system that I have. My mother, my friends, my family in general, even persons who I don't know, because I've had friends who went as far as, telling their church community about me and the situation that I've been through, and they've prayed and interceded for me. And this is in a whole nother country, right? And it helps. It really does help to have people who are rallying around you. Even though there were times where, honestly to God, me never did want to answer my phone. I didn't want to answer my phone because, I know it's out of concern, but sometimes it can be a little, especially when you're going through those difficult periods, it can be very hard to talk about it. But I am very, very grateful for my support system. So going through TSW, you definitely need a support system. You need somebody at home with you to help you cook, to help you wash, to help you clean. Because those things are vital to everyday life, but for people with TSW, you need it 10 times over. And then just to know that you have people out there praying for you, people out there hoping the best for you, it helps a whole lot. So if you don't have a support system with this thing, you have to go find it anywhere you have to find it. Talk about it. I've realized talking about it really does help me mentally, and it is helping me to get through it a little easier. It makes things a little easier, so that's really important. So I'll leave it there for today. TSW has ruined my life, but it has not taken my life. And so because I still have life, there is still hope, and I'm still fighting and going through. And what more can I ask for? I give God thanks because He's taking me through this. It is very difficult, the most difficult thing I've ever done in my life. But thank God I'm still here and I'm still fighting. So until next time, take care. Bye.